Fit people are more attractive than plus size people.
It's sad that someone wouldn't look at maybe someone like me and be like, I wouldn't be willing to give her a chance.
I think the body is a really good, very first sight. You get to see how hard does this person work.
Like, they never thought about fat people. They never thought about people of color.
Does the size of someone's body have any pull on the amount of attraction you guys have for people?
It does not. I've never been attracted to a particular body type, but my boyfriend is plus size.
This is gonna sound messed up, but if you have limited options, you have to go with the options that's presented to you. For example, if you're a 5'1" man, your pool of women that are gonna like you vastly has shrunk. And if you're a 5' man that also is obese, it's shrunk again. In part 1, we spoke about, is being obese a choice? And in today's prompt, the topic we're gonna go over is,
fit people are more attractive than plus size people. We'll start by having everyone that agrees come up now. But I mean, obviously this is a personal preference and opinion question.
Every single man sat down, even the big dude. That's funny.
What makes fit people more attractive than plus size people?
Habits, mindset, and the physical physique.
Yeah, I've had friends that like women on the plus side. I've had friends that like women that, to me, look, really small. One aspect other than just the looks alone is I think hard work is really attractive. And I think that most people find people that work hard is a really attractive trait. That really is shown on the way you take care of yourself. I think the body is a really good, very first sight. You get to see how hard does this person work.
I would only agree if the person looks actually in shape. You can't look at a thin person and say that they work hard, because they could just naturally, by default, tend to have a thinner physique. Whereas if you see someone that's muscular now or fairly athletic, then you can probably have that assumption, because you can't just randomly, for most people, look like a muscular fit person. You have to actually spend a good amount of time in the gym, practicing what you preach, eating better. And I'm going to talk about the majority here, because there's no point talking about, oh, well, I've got a friend that he eats anything he wants and he's just in shape. That's not the majority of people that step into a gym.
The hard work may not always present in a physical form, but beyond that, I think the first thing we need to do is point out that it's all men up here that agree with this one. Like, I think we have to point that elephant out immediately and say that's probably something that's societally related. Locker room talk, I think there's a lot of pressure on men to have a girlfriend that is conventionally attractive according to whatever the beauty standards are at the time.
So that is true. However, the fact that all the women are still standing up is still somewhat BS for at least one of them, because most average size women on average do not want a guy that's plus size, which is funny, because on the other hand, there's a lot of thin men that really do chase after really big women, that small niche. But let's be real, the regular sized person, maybe even 95 times out of 100 will probably be more attractive than someone super overweight. I guess the only time it starts getting weird is when you start getting to super bodybuilder, grotesque, Hulk looking people. But if you're talking about a regular person that goes to the gym versus a regular obese person, I feel like the answer is pretty obvious and cut and dry.
And so, you have a lot of men kind of brought into this system, indoctrinated into this mindset of like, I got to do this almost like a keeping up.
Indoctrinated, I wouldn't go that far. It's more like nature. Like, when you see something you like, it's just ingrained in you. And that goes for women too.
I mean, for me personally, like he was saying, I got friends, who their standard or whatever, what they're looking for is just like really extreme, really skinny. And then friends on the other side who, prefer plus size.
I'm black. So we're gonna go with stereotypes here based off my friend group. Anecdotally, we don't tend to like girls that are super skinny. We like girls normally curvy, not just fat. Talking about like a Coke bottle, you know what I mean? And usually a little bit thicker than what the average person will probably say is a Coke bottle physique. So we don't typically on average glorify super skinny. So I wouldn't say that it's a man thing. It can come down to culture as well, and as well as your overall environmental factors. So I'm not going to say that culture doesn't come into it at all, or like society as a whole. But so I do think it isn't like set in stone, because there's been many times I've seen someone that's not my typical type. I'm like, yo, there's just something about them that just allures you in.
I can say, with my wife, I've been together with my wife for 19 years. So I've known my wife at a range from, like 120 pounds to almost 100, almost 200 pounds. And, so like I know that physically, like I have different ranges of where I feel levels of physical attraction with her. And we've had those conversations, and she's said the same with me.
I was going to say, saying that on the internet, woo, like just saying, oh, my wife's a bit heavy, I don't find her attractive, that's crazy. But the fact they've had that open and honest conversation, that's great. And she said the same to him. That's commendable. Like couples should be able to have honest conversations about topics like that.
When I've had more weight on, that she's been less physically attracted to me. And the true attraction isn't about what we look like. Eventually we're going to be old and wrinkly at the end of the day. It's about what kind of a connection you have with that person is really what attraction is about. And I think that's why probably it's also more men up here right now, is because men are conditioned to not as often have that kind of a bond.
I personally don't agree there, because what he's talking about isn't, I think, what the prompt's saying. The prompt is talking about attractive, and I think that almost is the initial attraction. When you first see someone, when you start factoring in personality, chemistry, and all those things, those are things that get tacked on afterwards. Maybe I'm wrong, but the way I see the prompt is based on, if you were to look at two pictures and you don't know these people, if you did a whole test of like 100 people that are into fitness and 100 people that are obese, which one do you think will come out the highest number that most people find attractive? I would probably bet 10, 50, I'll probably bet all my wallet that the fitness side, I'm almost saying that side would win out against the typical plus size obese man or woman.
I think that's a good time to bring up the rest of us. I guess the real question is, does the size of someone's body have any pull on the amount of attraction you guys have for people?
Yes.
It does not. I've never been attracted to a particular body type, but my boyfriend is plus size. We've been together 4 years in November.
This is going to sound messed up, but when you've been probably that sort of size for forever, the phrase is beggars can't be choosers. But I don't want to say that phrase because it sounds offensive, but what I'm trying to say is basically, if you have limited options, you have to go with the options that's presented to you. For example, if you're a 5'1" man and you're just a regular person, you're not rich, your pool of women that are going to like you vastly has shrunk. Vastly has shrunk. And it's not even close. And if you're a 5' man that also is obese, it's shrunk again. So it's a case of you can't be talking about like, oh, I want to get like a super fit, attractive woman, because it's probably going to be so much harder for you to. So I'm just saying that in general, across the board, man, woman, how you look definitely impacts who you can attract to yourself, and you will become accustomed to that because that's the life that you've lived in. Whereas if you're someone born super good looking, 6 foot tall, and you're a very athletic dude, chances are that more women are going to find you attractive, which means you could pick of who likes you. Whereas when you're not that, you have to kind of deal with whoever gives you glances. So I'll be very surprised if her whole view of who she would even try and go for is not skewed based on her lived experience.
And he is the first person to ever truly look at me and find me attractive. That's something that I think everyone deserves, no matter what your size is. Honey, we're gonna age. You're gonna have wives with babies that are going to be bigger. And what if like they can't lose the weight? What if they're not fit enough for you? You're just going to stop loving them? That's extremely sad. And like, I'm not saying people can't have preferences, but it's sad that someone wouldn't look at maybe someone like me and be like, I wouldn't be willing to give her a chance because of the way that she looks and not who I am as a person. And that sucks. People wouldn't even get the chance to know me before counting me out.
That is a very, 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 very true thing she's saying. But without being too tough, it's life. They say don't judge a book by its cover, but when it comes to attraction, as I mentioned earlier, it's almost innate. Like people will just go off that. Where it kind of changes is where, like, for example, if you work with someone, like someone you meet at school or you're in close proximity, then oftentimes once you get to know the person, you can then get to a point where you find their personality so attractive that it also jumps over that initial barrier. But I don't think there's ever going to be a time where you can initially truly break past the barrier of the initial attraction, because that's just what you feel in your gut. You can't control it. You can try read bear books and watch various YouTubers, try become the most body positive person on the planet, but your gut is your gut. And I don't think you can program it. You can program your mind, but you can't program your gut and your heart. So I do agree with what she's saying, but I think in reality, that's just what's going to happen.
A lot of big people feel that way. Like, how am I deserving of love when all of the men just sat down here and said, I'm not attracted to a particular body type? That sucks.
Think that someone plus size could be attractive in your head?
I think it depends on every woman.
Okay, fair.
I don't think every woman has to have a snatched waist. This is going to sound very shallow amongst the boys, if we're getting truthful. If a girl has a nice waist to butt and hips ratio, I still find it very attractive. It doesn't have to be 23-inch waist and whatever.
This guy, I rate this guy. I haven't read the comments or anything, but he sounds very nuanced and everything. Like sometimes you get like douchey dickhead gym bro, especially when you got like a Jubilee video. You're gonna have someone that's gonna be there just to cause drama. But he's the most gym heavy guy here. But he sounds he's representing well. Normally on these kind of panels, they get some meathead gym guy that just makes us all look stupid and sound bad. But he's representing well, so shouts out to him.
What's your take on it?
I also don't have a preference of body type. I'm very fluid in my dating preferences and emotions.
I'm going to guess that, actually, I'm not even going to guess. Actually, I will guess. And she kind of half said it. I wouldn't be surprised. This is based on stereotypes. Based on the haircut, the outfit, and the vibe I'm getting, she's probably goes both ways, I would assume. And I've noticed, which is just my observation anecdotally, when it comes to really obese women specifically, what I've seen from many of these types of videos, the ones that are really obese and also carry themselves sort of like she does, they do tend to say that they like women and men. I think because it just opens up the pool again. As I mentioned earlier, like the pool gets smaller the more niche you are and how different you look. But if you do something like that, you've automatically opened it up a big chunk again, because now you've got a wider pool of people. So I think that also can also become a consequence of being this big, because you want to find love because everyone wants to feel loved. And if someone's going to love you, whether it's a man or a woman, they're going to go for that. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I do think that's something to point out.
So for me, it's a lot about if we have a lot of common hobbies or common interests, not necessarily if we have a common body type.
Like, say you're watching a movie, right? Baywatch, Zac Efron, right? Like one of the most shredded I think anyone's ever been in a movie on camera. Does that make any difference to you seeing that versus someone that, I don't know, I guess was plus size?
Good question, because when you bring out celebrities, you kind of distance it from your day-to-day life. People start talking more about their fantasy. Like many women fantasize about Thor and those people. But in reality, they never usually don't end up dating someone who looks like Thor. But if they had the option to, they would. Interesting. I assume they're going to say no, though, because they just had that whole spiel.
No difference at all.
No. I guess, like, if I have a preference at all, my celebrity crush is Luke Combs, which is a plus-size gentleman, which is kind of crazy.
Personally, I don't think I've really ever looked at anyone I was attracted to and been only attracted to them based on their body type, unless they were a woman. And I've never dated anyone based on their body type. But when you look at Ashley Graham too, she's a plus size Victoria's Secret model. Beautiful.
So it sounds like she's potentially gay. So if that's the case, once again, I feel like the choice of men they chose was good. Two normal kind of gym guys at different levels. One overweight guy that's very nuanced. He's not just saying like he hates himself or anything like that. He's just more or less admitting the truth, but saying that I kind of struggle with this, which is great. But each of the women, I feel like they're so volatilely different. You got one that's got super medical issues, so she's not going to relate to anything you're talking about, like in regards to being able to do things, just like she did in part one. The second one kind of had medical issues, but I'd say she's the closest to like a regular obese woman on here. And now you got this girl who is pretty attractive and slim, but I wouldn't say she represents the average woman. If anyone else agrees or disagrees, let me know in the comments.
We see all of these models who are plus size technically, but they look different as well. They still have curves and stuff. So I really do feel like it's based off of genetics. And I personally am a personality person. I've never, I never dated anybody based on how they look.
Why do you think for so long there weren't as many, you said there's very few people plus size that have broken into industries like that?
Because on average, the majority of people are looking at attractive people, and because most people don't find super overweight people attractive, that's basically what it is. The overweight people that did used to break out into like superstardom usually was down to comedy. So you'd have someone that's like really overweight, and they'd have comedy shows like Mike and Molly. There's like 1,000 sitcoms as like an overweight person. Got Roseanne.
I feel like, everything we do, it should be for future generations. And so with the body acceptance, it's like you're blasting these commercials and you're showing, all this stuff, and it's like, how is this affecting the kids? And so we want our kids to, grow up healthy lifestyles so they can live long.
That's a good point. It'd be good if they added the question and said, if you had the choice, considering, body positivity, if you could, make it take away from themselves. If they had kids, would they want their kids to grow up as a fit person or someone that is plus size? If they're truly honest, I think the majority would go with the fit.
Why were they kept out for so long? Not why are they getting introduced, but like why do you think they were kept out for so long? Like having plus size representation in media?
Because there were European ideal beauty standards that they wanted everyone to look like. So like going back to what you're saying, now they have to include like the diversity hires or whatever, because they never thought about those people before. Like they never thought about fat people. They never thought about people of color.
I hate that when they talk about this diversity thing, they put fat in there. I'm sorry. If you can change group, it's not a protected group. You're not a minority. You're just fat. You're a regular person that's got more fat than a normal person. Because if you lost the weight, you don't fall in that group anymore. I'm black forever. A Chinese person is Chinese forever. You're white forever. This isn't something that you just jump in between. So I hate when they merge that with other things. Like body positivity initially was meant to be for people with issues that they can't change, like a cleft lip or some sort of disfigurement or the disabled, various things that you cannot change. Therefore, they wanted people to normalize it so they don't feel weird. But somehow we merged from talking about that specific types of groups to just any old person that just happens to be really, really fat and trying to like get attention to focus on themselves. It's baffling. It's baffling how they co-opted it. Is masterful, to be honest, because when you think of body positivity now, you don't even think about the groups I just mentioned. You mainly think about someone fat, really fat, or maybe really out there that looks very, very strange because they've chosen to, not because of by force, by like them deciding to pierce their face like nothing with 50,000 tattoos and doing the most weird haircut and just saying we should be inclusive of all. If you've made yourself stand out or you've done things to stand out and you could change, that's on you. And I don't think everybody has to conform to that.
Like they never thought about fat people. They never thought about people of color. They thought about the people that were the majority or they thought looked the best. So they included those people. Like that's why it's been so long without a lot of inclusion, because they didn't like how the other people looked.
They didn't have fat people in media because it doesn't sell as much. If they want to sell clothes, having a fat person in a t-shirt is not going to sell as much as having someone that's good looking. Sounds tough to hear, but it's true. And that's basically what it comes down to, marketing. Trust me, because as soon as it became profitable to put obese people on the screen because body positivity was blowing up on TikTok, they started doing it because it was making sales. Now that it's less popular, they've took a lot of it off TV because it's not selling like it used to. It's just down to money. These people don't care either way. They only go where the money goes.
I don't think it's necessarily only because they didn't like about how they looked. Being in the modeling industry too, a lot of the clothes that they make are specialized for one size. And so if you don't fit these measurements, you're out. And so for a long time, it was just, you had to fit, 24, 22, whatever.
That is a true point, but doesn't accurately talk about this topic. That is a specific industry of modeling, because although that is true, that's a very niche thing. That's like if you want to go for fashion modeling, yeah, they're going to have that size. But there's many adverts on TV or TV shows, but specifically say adverts where they're selling things. They purposely choose people that look more of a normal size because the people watching will relate to them more than someone huge because it will distract from the product. For example, an easy, simple example would be there's many adverts that show processed foods on TV, like Bird's Eye meals and stuff. The last thing they want is someone really obese marketing that product because people can be like, oh, that must make you fat. It may not be true. And that food particularly could even be a low calorie item, but because it's a food item and it's like someone big holding it, they wouldn't want that correlation to be somewhat drawn, even in small instances.
It's really just about money and power. Who has the availability to buy these clothes like Prada? And it goes back to slave times. Who has...
Okay, we're going to skip past her.
I mean, it's a capitalist society, so why have they been kicked out before? Because they didn't feel that there was a monetary gain to include them. Now they do. Now they feel the pushback. Now people have the ability to stand up and make their voices heard, and they're hearing people saying that they want to see that representation, that they want to see clothes on models that look like them in stores.
Yeah, but look like them means a normal sized person, not someone super skinny like a supermodel. But they're not talking about really obese. This was filmed in this year. Okay, it said it's been uploaded 5 days ago. So this is 2025, the late end. This has already been sort of changed. You don't see as many magazine covers with super obese people on it slapped all the time anymore, like you did in 2020 up until 2022 maybe. So I wouldn't go that far, but people do want to see normal looking people that relate to them. But the average size person is not as big as these people.
In royalty times, a lot of the symbols of wealth was bigger people. It's just such a double standard. I don't know when we switch to, you have money,
Yo, I ain't gonna lie, everything she said in this whole video, part one and this one, has almost been bullshit. I don't know where they got her from, but I've almost hated and despised every take she's had for the most part, because she just goes off some, I don't know if she wants to seem super educated or super nice, but everything she's saying for the most part sounds like shit. The most nuanced people in this video so far has been the overweight guy and the super gym guy. Yeah, this person...
There are also entire stores dedicated to women built like me. I can only find like a bra really that'll fit me at Torrid, which is a plus size women's store, because it's not exactly made for me until I go to a place that is, and I'm like, fine, they'll get my business.
Well, yeah, because you're outside the normal size. Like, if you expect every single store to cater to someone your unusual size because you're much bigger than the average, because you're really short and you're really wide, you can't expect that. That's crazy. There's a reason why 7 foot tall people have to go to a big and tall store, because they cannot expect regular stores to shell out to build clothes to fit them, because it's just going to make everything, the cost of manufacturing, go up, because everybody's got to pay that cost because they have to serve this tiny little margin of group of people. So instead, what they did is people realized that they can create business for these specific people because they have limited options. So we can create various clothes lines for them and make big and tall stores for those. You cannot be someone that's super overweight, super obese, I should say, because you're not just chubby, you're obese. You can't be that big and be surprised that you find it hard to find clothing, especially when you're short too. So it may sound rough to hear, it may sound a little bit mean, but that's the reality. There's one thing about, like, everyone should be empathy and understand whatever. I'm all for that, but we can't ignore the truth. You can't expect stores to cater to you when within your size. You can't expect it, because then we all got to shell out for that. It's no different than the airports when they're saying, like, make airports bigger because the seats feel tight for them. That's because you made yourself bigger than the average. You just can't expect the same everywhere. Like, if you make yourself nowhere near equal or similar to everybody else, that's on you.
I also wanted to make a point of the very first thing that was said over here during this prompt is that people that do not go to the gym or have like a healthy lifestyle are lazy. So far from beyond what I actually live. I work a lot.
I don't think we cover it in this video because it's in part one, but she outlines specifically that, going to the gym just feels like effort. I don't like doing it. I don't have high discipline. I just don't want to do it. She specifically said that she basically is too lazy to go to the gym because she doesn't like doing it, which is her right. She doesn't got to go. But you did say basically that you are too lazy to go to the gym. Whether you're a lazy person in general is a different scenario, but at least in the aspect about looking after your health, you have chosen not to do it. You said that you would rather go to restaurants and eat multiple items of food on the meal because you're a foodie rather than go exercise because one of them feels like a compulsion that you love doing and the other one you despise. So we have to also still frequently ground them back in reality and say that we've been watching this whole podcast and there's contradictions coming every so often when it comes to accountability.
I work a lot. I put a lot of time and energy into the career that I have. And to think that someone can take a look at me from across the room and say she's lazy because of the way that I look is so sad. It's truly so sad because I work a lot and I do a lot of things that pertain to me, my relationship, and my family, including fostering 2 children. Like, that's crazy that someone would just take a look at me from a glance and say she's lazy. I'm mad at that.
2 things can be true though. You can be a very hard worker when it comes to your job. You can also be a hard worker when it comes to your family, but you can also still be lazy when it comes to looking after your health and well-being because you value it lower down on the list compared to various other things. Because let's be real, most people's lifestyle has more than those 3 things. You have social time. She says she loves going out for restaurants, stuff like that. That time that you go to restaurants and eat multiple foods, you could go to exercise or something, or you could train at home. There's time that can be made, but you choose not to because you don't prioritize it, which is fine, but it does exist. You didn't say that you're back to back, you can't do anything, because you said you often like going out to meals because you're a foodie in part 1. So you do have time available. You just don't prioritize the gym because you're lazy in that aspect. And the way I can say this for myself, for example, I'm a hard worker when it comes to my job. I'm a hard worker when it comes to the gym, but there's definitely areas that I kind of slack in. I'll procrastinate on things that I'm not necessarily that interested in. So 2 things can be true. You can be a very hard worker in various aspects of your life, but you can let other things slip. We all do. Now, if you're lazy across the board, then yes, someone will call you lazy, period. But when people say that, they mean you're lazy towards your health. Well, they should mean that because they have no idea what's going on in the rest of your life.
So sad that society has brought us here.
You have to separate those aspects of your life into boxes. Fostering children, I'm lazy. I don't do that. I don't help with that. That's certainly something that someone said to Gabe, you're lazy at that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Working a lot, not making time. I work 14-hour days and I still manage to go to the gym. I work. It'll take a toll on my sleep sometimes, sure, but I have to be willing to take accountability and say, well, I was lazy at this. I think the people that don't go to the gym have to be willing to take accountability and say, I was lazy at the gym today. Did I go? Doesn't mean your entire life is lazy. Doesn't mean that it'll take away from those other aspects. But we do have to be willing to take accountability. You'd have to take accountability and say, I was lazy about my fitness today.
Interestingly, do you think when you look at someone and you're like, okay, do you actually sit there and think this person's lazy about the gym or this person's lazy?
In all fairness, when I see someone overweight, I don't think anything of it. An intrusive thought would be, I guess, if you saw someone severely obese walking down the street, eating like a bag of chips, on the surface, you'd be like, shit, they probably shouldn't be eating that. But for all I know, behind the scenes, they've been good all month and that's their one cheat, but I wouldn't know that. But on the surface, those are the thoughts you'd have. But when it comes to just being a regular person on the street, I've never really thought, they're lazy.
I guess I really do think gym, but I do see why other people, like I said earlier, it's a visual representation of who you are as a person.
The word fat is offensive.
Okay, that is going to be an interesting one. Well, I can't film it today, but be sure to let me know what you thought of the video as a whole. And if you disagree with me, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'm always willing to learn other people's perspectives and see what they think.